Hello and welcome to Gardener's World Live. Now, Rachel, this is a show that for me is quite unlike any of the others. This is special.
I absolutely agree. Well, it's our show, first of all. It's a very friendly show, and I think these are real gardeners here.
Because you feel here that people are interacting from the beginning. Oh, look at that, thing and buy. They're going shopping, apart from anything else. And somehow the show gardens do feel more intimate.
And, of course, we've got the A-team here. Arit, Adam and Ashley.
Triple A's.
And they're already out exploring the best on offer. There's so much to see at the show this year. So we're going to give you just a little taste of what's coming up in the next hour and why Gardeners World Live is so special.
Birmingham's central location is the perfect spot for Gardeners World's very own flower show. It's a place for people from across the country to come together and share in our passion for gardening.
It's the best show. We come here every year to see Monty and the team.
I love the size of the show gardens here because at home, in a new build garden, they're small. So I can basically come here, pick a show garden up, take it home and put it in my garden, and I've got the exact same effect.
The gardens are brimming with inspiration and take-home ideas. And we'll be following Nick Bailey as he builds his show garden, which is all about making every metre matter.
It's been 7 months in the planning, but finally the garden is beginning to become a reality.
The floral marquee is awash with summer colour and expert growers offering advice. That is marvellous. Thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
It's also home to the International Orchid Show with 31 exhibitors with incredible plants.
I brought my orchids all the way from Ecuador for this show.
I'm from Taiwan. I bring a lot of Asian species to England because you don't see them in England often.
We will be meeting one of the more local exhibitors as they prepare their collection for the show.
This is Scaphosepalum gibbosum. I just love them because they just look like big pistachiots. They're just very different, very unusual.
The beautiful borders are a hotbed of creativity, and that's where many designers make their debut.
I applied to build my first border just 3 years ago. This show's been a springboard for my career, and now I'm winning awards for showcase gardens.
And we'll be meeting a mother and son building their first ever border with a design that combines both Welsh and Arabic roots.
I see the garden as like an exhibition of my faith, so why not have an Islamic garden with plants that can thrive in this environment?
Gardeners World Live is truly the people's show. It has something for all of us.
At Gardeners World Live this year, the show gardens are doing a fantastic job at demonstrating, first of all, different styles of design, traditional, more contemporary, but also they're carrying very different atmospheres, and for me, that's what gardens are all about. I mean, when you look at this one, first of all, it looks obvious. Lovely sort of zigzag path leading to a big focal point at the end, and you're travelling over this water, so there's a sense of sort of calmness. But then you look a little bit closer and it really starts to sort of reveal itself, and you realise it's not just about human beings, it provides for wildlife. The lovely bit though, at the end of each run of path, there's a little focal point. Now I've stepped down, feels slightly different, there's a boulder, I can sit down, the eye line completely changes. I'm now immersed and I feel very different to what I did up there. Then there's these lovely little bee posts. So those solitary bees are provided for, and then you've got the planting, the gravel underfoot. So there's a texture. You know, you look at this as a design, it's quite classic, but then there's a really good diversity of trees, and then there's layers of shrubs, and then there's the herbaceous planting. But then you've got that main feature of the water. It's a cracker. What did I say about atmosphere? Yes, this feels very different. It's rugged. It's this sort of winding path that you sort of slowly move through the space. Do you know one of the lovely things here is this was all built by students, and it's great that the show, young landscapers, gardeners, you know, people cutting their teeth in the world that I love. But if you look closely in every single one of these gardens, there is stuff to take home. Look at that behind me. Yeah, lovely little border. But for me, the fantastic bit is all the different flower shapes. We've got achilles in there, we've got poppies, we've got salvias, we've got geums. All those different shapes and forms create this sort of wonderful tapestry. So, you know, you come here, you take a photograph of that, and that inspires some planting in your own garden. There you go. That was fun. What a great reminder, though. When you're creating a garden, you know, how do you want it to feel? Do you want that moment of calm, lively place to entertain? This is all about kids. And you can see, look at the primary colours. You've got the salvias, the dahlias, you know, the geums, the eryngiums. So there's these different shapes and forms, but those primary colours really put a smile on your face. But also what I love as well is designers come up with cracking ideas. Look at these. I peep down. They're tiny little peepholes, so as you look through, they perfectly frame the planting. And obviously everyone's going to be slightly different. What I think is great about these show gardens is, yes, some of them you can literally pick up, transport, put in your own backyard. But the others that not necessarily jump out at you as something you would do are still full of great ideas that we can take home just to make our spaces maybe a little bit better.
I love the way that at this time of year, there's a whole new palette of colour and plants adding real zing to our gardens. And it's not too late to be thinking about what you can plant now to extend that flowering season into late summer and early autumn. And Arit and Ashley are in the full marquee, delighting and discovering the extraordinary range of wonderful plants to be found.
Ashley, can you believe they've actually let us in?
I can't. This is like plant heaven. Every plant you can ever imagine is in this room with us.
Now, I know what you're like because you want to take in the detail. You've got your gardening head on. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I think I'm looking for the right plant for the right place.
Okay.
And I want to see new plants, ones that we could maybe use in future gardens.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
And I guess as a designer, you're looking for the right combinations and extending that flowering season.
Yeah, I love looking at that. I love looking at the displays, and of course there's the individual plants, but it's how do you put them together, colours, textures, you know, different shapes. All right, let's see. Let's see what you come up with.
See you in a bit.
Look at this. The colour is absolutely stunning. Iris waterworts. But I love the shape of the flower here. All of these lovely scallops around the outside. A real showstopper in a very sunny border.
This Galenia has caught my eye because you don't often see a pink one. It's so delicate and it has this beautiful chocolate foliage. And then I couldn't help but notice this Acer Viper, which has this incredible leaf. And the bark, imagine that in the winter, that has beautiful white stripes that will provide winter interest for you. There's also a little Alchemilla, which is so cute. It has the cutest little leaves. Absolutely love this Adenophora, which has a beautiful fade from purple to white. It is really similar to Campanula and will be perfect for woodland edge, dappled shade.
Now this is really pretty. I love how this Nautia is bouncing across the top of the Orlea here. Really, really pretty, tiny little button shapes. Now, completely different to that great big blousy iris, but it works so well. It's very, very ephemeral. Really love this type of planting. I think Ashley would like this.
Here we have a selection of plants that would be perfect for a sunny border. You've got this mellow yellow verbascum. You've got this beautiful steeper, which is knitting everything together. So this is a great combination if you've got a gravel garden or you're looking for drought-tolerant planting. Arit, you weren't joking. You were quick.
I told you. I absorb very, very quickly. But I've just come here because this is where the new breeders showcase their new plants, and it's so lovely that everybody can see the plants of the future incoming. But look at this one. This is the new helianthus, nice. And I just think it's lovely. And the leaf on it is slightly glaucous. It's got a texture on it as well. I love how proud it is on the stems.
That is so nice.
And
this one caught my eye.
Okay.
This is a Rapiolepsis. So it's an evergreen shrub, so great for winter structure. And I think it would look so nice mixed among other perennials.
Very good. Shrubs get underplayed, don't they?
They do.
I'm in absolute seventh heaven amongst all these perennials. I mean, just look at the range of colours and shapes. But I think best of all, so many of them are suitable for attracting pollinators, and that's really important to me. Well, every year at Gardeners World Live, they ask a designer to create a headline garden, and this year the honour has gone to our very own Nick Bailey.
It's been 7 months in the planning, but finally the garden is beginning to become a reality. The design is broken up into 196 individual square metres and is rooted in sustainability. And I want to prove that you can create an entire garden, including the hard landscape, using nothing but plants. Now we just need to pull it all together. It's been a pretty full-on 8 days, very, very long hours, and then of course have been months of sleepless nights in advance of doing this, but I'm genuinely thrilled that in just a few days' time, people are going to be able to see all the incredible efforts that have gone into putting this garden together. Central to my design concept was to make sure the garden works from whichever direction you approach it. Typical show gardens, you only get to see one or two sides. This is designed so you can see in from every side, and so you've got different dynamic views as you move around the site. You've got all of these kind of pitched roofs which should interact with each other. This is the veg garden, but then we move into the brassicarium, which is a protected area. Coming round this side, we can now get the full frontal view of the roofed barn doing its thing there. Of course, there are the ponds underneath as well, which kind of embody that sort of single-metre space. So coming through here, you've got this big central line which takes you through the garden with these beautiful clay pavers. We've only seen two sides of the garden, but there's more. If you come around here, you suddenly get a whole different set of vistas. Looking into the roofed barn over here, looking through the trees and those layers. We've then got the multi-occupancy birdhouse, but also a pergola, effectively, that gives you an arch or an entranceway into the garden. And then this is our potting shed, so treated in the same way in terms of roofs and materials as everywhere else, but there's even more coming through here. This is where all the hazel will be growing, with the beautiful meadow going underneath. And then coming through here, there's even more. Lots of stuff on the ground here, but compost heaps just here. People will be able to get and see all of these different views, and you can see how the vista has shifted again. So I'm hoping it makes it really exciting for people. They can truly get to every single angle in the garden.
Obviously, we'll have to burn some of those or cut them with scissors.
Oh yeah, just to tidy it up.
Yeah.
But that is looking great. Sustainability is truly at the heart of this garden, and not just as a concept, but as a practical reality. Every single element has been chosen with a purpose, basically to demonstrate that it's possible to garden while being incredibly kind to the planet as well. I love the fact that we've been able to construct this garden basically completely from plants. So the barn I'm stood in at the moment is made from Douglas fir. It's been treated and kind of burnt down. This is known as shugiban, which sounds very exotic, kind of Japanese technique. I looked up the words, it actually just means burnt plank, but it's a great way of preserving timber. Next plant-based material is the hessian just here. So this is a tropical grass, actually, that's used to produce this really kind of long-wearing, lovely material. Talking about grasses, next material over here, again, plant-based. This is bamboo. It's a fantastic product, works as a superb cladding. The guys have really kind of struggled to cut it because it's so dense. It's an amazing material. And then finally, our one concession to a non-plant-based material are the clay pavers down there. But of course, they're so much better for the environment than concrete or anything else. It's great to see the buildings taking shape, but the key to a successful show garden is always the plants. You know, I was saying with these Lysimachas that they're not great at the base. So what I was thinking is we could try and run it through the Angelicas.
Yeah, sure.
Using a few different kind of planting palettes in the garden in terms of colours and tones and textures. And so what I've tried to do is go for the kind of colour wheel opposites thing by pairing kind of blues and oranges, but subtle tones and versions of those. So I've got the Nepeta, which has got sort of violets, purples, burgundies in there, but an overall kind of pale blue theme. I've got this Veronica, which is slightly heading towards violet, but there's blues in there as well. And then the idea is that they contrast against this lovely geum called Tempo Orange, and then we've got this fantastic Carex Testacea, which again is doing the orange. I'm using 20 trees in my garden, and they need to look their best. So I've learned from bitter experience, having created a few show gardens, you get these giant trees. This is about 6 metres tall. Stand it up, looks beautiful. 2 days later, you realise there's a dead leaf 6 metres high in the air. Major problem. So what I'm doing here is just going through and taking out any little bits of damage, any bits of yellowing foliage that will bug me down the line. It's a lot easier to do. You know, it might sound a bit strange, but I'm actually saving all of these kind of half-dead leaves, because behind me are 2 compost bins which are going in the garden, and we need them to look as authentic as possible. So we're actually saving all the dead plant material as well as the live stuff.
All right, let's do it in. Come on, right, turn this way a bit. All right, 2, right. The hole's too small. Is it? No, can't do it.
You just need to dig a little bit where your foot is, don't you?
Oh, mate, it's nearly there.
No, I think that's going to work. I think it's going to work. Got a few tweaks to do. The hole isn't quite big enough. Happens sometimes. Just going to take a skim off the edge. That will slot in. Literally, it feels like it was made for that spot. It's just kind of sitting in that wedge. And it's the kind of, I guess it's the glue that holds those buildings together. And then it links across to the one on the other side. There's a dead bit up there, though. I'm going to be balancing on a ladder shortly. It's only 7 days now until the show opens to the public, and we are slightly behind. It does happen with most show gardens, but the good news is that all of the hard landscape is done. So our birdhouse is up, the roofed barn is complete, the burnt-out barn is doing its thing, and our potting shed is done as well, along with the ponds. So it's down to the planting team now to get the 2,000 or so plants we've got into the ground, nicely settled, and hopefully looking beautiful in time for the show to open.
Well, Nick, I know he loves plants, but the fact that he's taken them through to his hard landscaping materials, I think is absolutely genius. It's such a brilliant way to bring new innovation into a show garden. And we will be revealing his finished garden later in the programme. What we love about this show is that we all get to come together and talk about our favourite subject, gardening. Whether it's revelling in beautiful flowers or solving some gardening conundrums.
That looks almost as good as the garden.
Almost as good,
oh
yes.
My goodness.
I've gone for the Sweet William. I tried growing them a couple of years ago, but wasn't that successful.
It's got loads of buds, this one, so it's a really lovely plant. Deadhead them, it will keep flowering throughout the summer. You can also give it a liquid feed. That will keep it producing healthy flowers.
I have got dry, sandy soil in a shady position.
I've got an 8-foot high north-facing wall.
So let's go see if we can find you two some plants that deal with that shady conditions.
That would be
One
question.
Go on.
Can I tag along?
Of course you can. We're going to go in there. Come on, let's go.
Let's have a smell. Yes, I'd like that. Okay. That's one.
Let's go over this way, shall we? If we come round here, look at that.
Oh, I really like that.
It's a tiny little collection. Some of those will work in semi-shade, some of them will work in shade. Yeah. So really what it is finding the plants that will work roughly in the conditions and then finding the variety that will work for you. Does that make sense? Yeah. So once we've covered all the ground, yeah, now we want a few little gems, all right? So this is called Disporum. For me, they're a really hard-working plant.
And the coloration of the leaves, do you get different ones?
Some are dark, some are light. Does that help?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah, really, really good.
Good.
Yeah.
Have a lovely day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon. Cheers, bye-bye.
The beautiful borders section of the show is great for small space inspiration, and there are 26 different designs this year, all centred around the theme of cultivating connections. And Arit's kicking off our tour.
Well, looking at this border, it's a real feast for pollinators. There's penstemons, peters, lavenders, salvias. These phlox are great in the border as well because they give out a slight scent, and that paler colour means that at dusk they can still carry on attracting in things like moths to pollinate. And there are also some really nice sensory elements in this garden as well. So this herb border here, for example, it's really great entry plant for children to have in a space where they can come out, pick the herbs and taste them. And then as I come around here, I can see a firm favourite for a sunny border, and that's this lovely Stachys byzantia here. And this is lambsy, which is really good for drought tolerance, but also so soft to touch, which again is great for children to be able to come and see in the garden. The great thing about this border is so many of the plants are easy to look after, cut and come again, so you can get flowering going throughout the whole season. So it's good for pollinators, but also good for people too.
I think the word that comes to mind when you see this garden is wow, because it's such a burst of colour. And it's inspired by the super bloom events that you get globally in very arid places when all the flowers just come into bloom and make these incredible displays. And also the designer comes from the East Sussex coastline, and you feel that sort of seaside effect going through, and the plants are actually growing through sand. Lots of things that are familiar, like the California poppies in 2 different shades of orange, which are really lovely. And then giving some height with the mallows, we've got the agapanthus coming through, there's a verbena through there, and then on these weathered boards, we've got the black-eyed Susan just sort of wending its way up. So you've got lots of lovely height, which is great. Lots of wonderful plants, and I particularly like those little dried flowers there. They're sort of everlasting flowers, and they dry and you can use them for flower arranging and so on through the year. It's fantastic. The main thing I think that really hits you is the colour.
Slugs can be a real problem for gardeners, but this garden showcases how you can create a slug-resilient space.
By choosing plants like these grasses, geum, and you've also got verbascum with hairy, tough leaves, that is something that slugs don't enjoy as much as the fat, juicy hostas and dahlias. Also think about cultivation techniques in your garden. This one uses a straw mulch, and slugs won't like crawling over that so much. Over time, it will break down and also feed your plants to create healthy, resilient plants in your garden. And one of the best things you can do is have a water feature in your garden, something that wildlife will be attracted to. Birds and amphibians and mammals will eat slugs and remove them from your garden without you having to do the hard work. But remember, not all slugs are enemies. They help to break down dead plant material, feeding our plants, and they are an essential part of the ecosystem.
I do think that the beautiful borders are more beautiful than ever. They're really stunning this year. Now, the show gardens and the borders are always showing something new. They're giving us excitement, they're making us think. It's that freshness that is so appealing. But actually, one of the things that I love about the floral marquee is the familiarity. You see old friends, faces that have been showing here for years and years. And obviously they're bringing new plants. But this year, we were sent a film by a nurseryman from Evesham who is preparing to show here at Gardeners World Live for the very first time.
Hello Gardeners World, I'm Stephen from Growing Crazy and we're getting our pelargoniums ready for Gardeners World Live. So my passion for pelargoniums started when I was about 13 years of age. I got a job working for the National Pelargonium Collection, which had been started and established by Hazel Key in what was then the largest collection of pelargoniums under one roof. As time went on, I probably became the annoying teenager asking, what's that one? What's that one? Why did you get that? How did that cross with that? And I'm sure, you know, as annoying as I were, Hazel never showed it. She was curious, I think, by the passion that I showed for the plants. For the last 25 years or so, I've worked in IT, project management, and taught business strategy. But that all changed. The Key family had sort of let me know that they were looking at winding up the business. It was at that point I suddenly thought, I need to save that one, or I need to keep that one. I think my collection now is between 500-600 or so plants. 5 months ago, I decided to follow my dream, take the leap and make it a full-time business with the help of my partner Harry and my mum Diane, with lots of support from family and friends.
When Stephen told me he was thinking of giving up work full-time, I actively encouraged it. What I didn't expect really was that I would be working full-time too on the plants.
What are you doing, Mum?
Labelling up, Stephen.
Why are you doing that?
Because somebody didn't label up when they put it up, did they, Stephen?
No, they didn't, Mum. We've come to take a look at what plants we could take with us to the show. This is Copthorn. Copthorn is a scented pelargonium, but it has these large blooms on it that flower all summer long. This is Charity. It's a scented leaf pelargonium that's primarily grown for its foliage, and you can really see why. Another variety we would love to take with us is Crocodile. Not only does it have these lovely flowers, but it's got this really interesting featured leaf where it's got the nice veining through it. It's 4 days until showtime, so I'm hoping all of this flower is going to last. I've loved the buzz of the flower shows ever since Hazel took me to Chelsea Flower Show to help out on the stand over 30 years ago. We did Hampton Court and also we went to the very first BBC Gardeners World Live, which was a real experience. So it's kind of nice to sort of come back to where it all started, really.
Stephen, I can't believe that you were worrying whether you had the right quantity of plants. I mean, it looks absolutely perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a bit of a job, but we've managed to, jam-pack lots of colour and lots of variety into this.
Well, it's really a celebration of all the different varieties.
That was the aim. We really wanted to sort of show off the diversity of all the plants that we've got and all the different varieties and all the different groups that are available.
Well, I think you've definitely done that.
Thank you.
Now, might this be Crocodile? Because I think I recognise that mottled leaf.
Yes, it's fantastic. Really unusual sort of leaf. I'm not a big fan of the flowers. I do have to keep the flowers on at home because my partner does like them, but I'd rather take them off and show off the leaves.
And you need to keep the peace.
Oh, yes.
Now, I know it's like asking who your favourite child is, but do you have a favourite amongst all of these?
I think probably this week it's got to be the Stenopilatum. This really is something a bit different. It's a species pelargonium. It has these lovely sort of waxy ivy leaf kind of leaves, but it has a really nice upright habit to it, which makes it a really great plant. And then just those flowers.
Yeah, the flowers are extraordinary, aren't they? The shape is really eye-catching. So if you're going to buy a plant here at the show and it's the first time you've grown a pelargonium, what are your top tips?
Top tips, probably first thing is to sort of think about the compost. Go for the best quality compost that you could afford and then do regular feeding. We, through the season when they're in flower, would be feeding them with a good tomato feed.
I can't believe that it's only 5 months that you've been doing this full time. It's extraordinary. Will you be coming back next year?
Hopefully, yes.
I'll ask you at the end of the show.
Yes.
At this time of year, of course, it's natural that we are relishing and wallowing in all the wonderful flowers, but you must have lots of foliage if you want to achieve peace and harmony in your garden, which is so important. And this stand, Ferns and Foliage, has 3 plants that really exemplify that. You've got ferns, you've got acers and hostas, and all 3 will thrive if you give them the right conditions. So for example, for the tree ferns, they must have moist air. But if you spray them every day, they're pretty adaptable. Acers are fine as long as you can keep them out the wind and also give them good drainage. Well, I have real problems with that at Longmeadow. However, hostas love it, and I love hostas too. And the secret to hostas, to make them slug-free, is give them plenty of moisture, give them some shade, and also give them some room to grow. And one of the things I'm noticing this year as I'm walking around the show is I'm seeing lots of gardens and displays that are inducing that kind of green calm. All the beautiful borders are really good, but this one is interesting because it's doing an awful lot. It's providing 3 seats, different types of colorways, but all of them are aimed at providing a space for people just to stop, relax, and be at peace. And I particularly like this corner. It's very simple. You have this hardy geranium, Mrs. Kendall Clark, which has got this lovely powdery, slightly lilac-y colour. The thalictrum, which is topped off with that gentle lilac, but also has these incredible, rich, deep stems. And then the ferns and the foliage and the little grasses around it. It's simple planting, but the point is, it's gentle. And sometimes, even in the middle of summer, you need that subtle but gentle planting, both of flower and of foliage, to find the peace that is so important within yourself. Now I've come to this garden, which is right on the edge of the showground, but it's really worth the visit. It's called a Garden of Reflection, and I like its story. It has been made specifically for a secondary school in Wargrave near Reading. Now in my experience, getting secondary school children to engage with gardening at any level is an uphill struggle. But this garden does it very creatively, because it's not just creating a space full of lovely plants. Much more importantly, it's creating a safe environment where they can let the plants and nature come to them and they can engage with it on their own terms. And going around the show this year, I'm seeing more and more examples of plants and of inspiration of how you in your garden can create those calm, quiet retreats.
The beautiful borders are great for inspiration, but they also provide the perfect springboard for aspiring designers to take their first steps. A few weeks ago, we met a family in Swansea who are combining their many talents to create their first ever border.
The first time I came to Clyne Park, I was maybe 3 or 4, and I just thought I'd entered a magical world. It was like a fairy tale. So obviously I wanted my kids to grow up in Clyne, so over the years I've brought them to the park. And I feel that if you let children be in nature, then they'll look after it and take care of it, which is very important to me as a mother of 7.
I've done the apprenticeship for nearly 3 years now in Clyne. I've learnt experience here, and to me, Clyne is an amazing park. My name is Omar Yusuf.
I'm Emma Yusuf, I'm his mum.
We're collaborating for Gardeners Worldwide. It'll be a paradise garden with Arab and Welsh theme. And the name of the garden is Calon Lan, which is pure heart in Welsh. My inspiration was Clyne, but the most inspiration for me was my garden that inspired me to learn a lot about plants. Me and my mum, we make a good team. My mother's responsible for designing the garden. I'm going to help with putting it together. I will be giving the horticultural plant knowledge.
So I say, what about this? And he says, no, Mum, you can't have that. Or he says, yeah, amazing. Why don't you incorporate such and such with it? So the inspiration was actually the theme this year, which is cultivating connections. As I'm from mixed heritage and Islamic faith, there's so many connections, but all these things are beautiful elements, and I wanted to combine them into a garden. I see the garden as like an exhibition of my faith and my journey and my Welsh and Arab heritage. So why not have an Islamic garden with plants that can thrive in this environment?
And it's nice to show people about both heritages, what plants are grown in Iraq and Wales.
It's a Welsh border. We love Wales, very patriotically Welsh. He speaks Welsh as well. So, yeah.
Yes, shocking.
Paradise Gardens is whatever you think paradise is. For me, paradise is just going to be lush green, lots of colour, lots of water, the sound of birds, anything that's soothing to your soul.
So the colour scheme for Calon Lan is white, a cerise colour and purple. I'm growing these Iris Iberica because they got a lovely purple colour and it's got an amazing height and it grows so quick. It only takes about 2 months for it to fully develop and have nice flower, and it's a spectacular plant.
Water has a very important role to play in paradise gardens. Water is the life force of all creation. It mentions in the Quran 4 rivers in paradise of wine, honey, milk and water. Generally, Islamic gardens are split into 4 because of the rivers. So I feel that it should be incorporated in any garden. It's soothing for the soul, no matter where your culture or garden is based.
So we wanted to find a space where we wanted to plant this garden. So I've cleared this area. This was brambles before. I've cultivated it, and now the plan is basically to put all the plants along here just to see the mock-up of the garden before the show.
This is mint. It's the same variety that they have in Iraq. I've put this in my garden because it's a 5 senses garden. Obviously, you can have this in tea, you put it in salad, so it's taste, and also it gives off a lovely scent that I'm hoping will tie in with the smell of roses and jasmine. We're a family of 9. My husband and myself have 7 children, almost the oldest. The youngest is 3. They've all been getting involved in helping with planting and planning and mosaics. I thought I'd take this opportunity to get my children to help me make some mosaics. I think it's a really nice idea for them all to have contributed to this mosaic that is going to be the central feature of the garden. My inspiration is Celtic knotwork. Also, I like geometry, which is Islamic patterns. What we're making right now is a Celtic heart, because the garden's called Calon Lan, which is pure heart.
These plants, the irises, the salvias, the digitalis, they were part of my journey when I was in Clyne. I thought, why not grow them for the border?
It's going to be an exciting experience, really good for the kids. They're all taking part in it. It'd just be fantastic for them to see what I can actually do. I quite like the idea of people seeing my tiny little border and thinking that's a full-on garden. I think everybody needs a bit of paradise in their life because life is hard for people. And when you go into the garden and you sit amongst the green and the different colours and the birds and the bees and the sound of nature, your heart is at rest, you're at ease. You feel a sense of peace. It doesn't matter what faith you're from. This is the beauty of gardens. It has the same calling to everybody.
Emma and Umar, all of that hard work is paid off. You are now at the show. So how was the experience, Emma?
It's been an amazing experience, lovely people, seeing all the celebrity gardeners and the mentors for my son, really. I'm so glad I did it and brought him to the right place so he could see that anything is possible.
So how have your family reacted to seeing this lovely garden here?
Totally amazed. My little one, who's 4, he came and he ran on the garden and plonked himself on the chair, and my son was like, he's not supposed to go in the show gardens. I was like, it's my garden, he can do what he wants. So he was, wow, mummy's garden.
Oh.
And then my daughter, she's going to be doing architecture.
Yes.
So she was wowed by it. So all I want from life is to inspire my children, and I feel I've achieved that.
Oh, well done. And you've only just finished your apprenticeship as well, Umar. So to see all your wonderful plants, how are you feeling?
It's just amazing to show plants. I've got foxgloves, irises, all sorts of plants from Wales and Iraq. And it'd just be amazing to show people what you can do in such a small space.
Yeah.
And it'd be amazing to show the pollinator flowers too.
Exactly. And now I understand that you're going to have this relocated. So where's it going on to?
It'll be relocated in Swansea, the waterfront. I'm hoping that many people can enjoy it and see it, and it's such a privilege.
And it should take place in Wales because it's influenced by the Welsh heritage. All the slabs are Celtic designs. Obviously it's a fusion of a few different cultures, but there's a big Welsh influence on the garden.
Well, I think it's really great to see that fusion. I have family in Wales, so I hope to be able to come and see it at the waterfront at some point.
That'd be amazing.
It'd be amazing. Send them.
So well done. Well done.
This garden is based on a new build. In one corner, maybe the garage takes out a chunk of the garden. Then you've already got a shed, if you're lucky, and then they're left with this slightly awkward space. You still want all the things we want from our garden. You want to relax. Maybe you want to provide for wildlife. Well, this does it really well. Simple, small trees work through the space. They just start to soften and bring the garden down to this level. But on the way, you've got these raised beds. But all of those is reflected in this central water feature. So the whole thing glues together, but it's not that classic look out the window, strong lines, you know. It's all these overlapping shapes that sit really comfortably. And then the planting is a mix of the softer, wilder, leery meadow right into the good old ornamentals. And the last thing, the materials. They're all reclaimed, you know, they're imagined to be collected off the building site. So, however intimidating that little blank space outside the back door might feel, a little bit of thought, you too could have something like this.
And I'm really loving this garden. It's got everything you could want in a relatively small space. Very much a garden of two halves. So on this side, this is the shady bit, and all these shade-loving plants, things like the hostas and ferns, the heuchera, and it's punctuated by these yew balls, which just gives it that structure. And if you haven't got space for a tree, well, this is a perfect solution. It's silver birch, which is grown multi-stemmed from the base. And then they've clipped it a little bit higher up so you can use all of this space underneath for planting, which is fantastic. And then on the other side of this path, which is very smart, it's made of burnt scaffolding boards, and they're then oiled, and it looks really expensive, but actually isn't, so a really good tip. And then this side, all of the sun lovers. So they're growing through gravel, which is a great mulch to help sort of retain moisture, but also keeps down the weeds and sets them off beautifully. Things like the salvias, you've got alliums here still going. And it's lovely, this sort of palette of beautiful soft mauves. And I think what I really like is that you can imagine you could just pick up this whole garden in its entirety and pop it down into yours and be very happy indeed.
It's interesting listening to Rachel talk about the sunny side and the shady side, because this garden is definitely designed around weather. It's for a drier part of the country, but also that idea that we shouldn't use so much water in our gardens. You look at it as a layout, it's quite simple. Elegant, rectangular at the top, path that drives all the way around it, and then you've got a sunken space, texture in materials. It's quite lovely.
You're waxing lyrical, aren't you?
I was just about to talk about planting, so
well,
that's perfect timing.
I'm really admiring the planting. It's beautiful. I mean, so well adapted as well for dry conditions, all these silvery and grey leaf foliage. But I love the movement as well, the grass across the top. It's also, I think, thought-provoking because you've got a fountain that, of course, would have been all about the water. And now we're showing, look what you can do without any water, just planting it up. It's really beautiful,
I think
actually.
the last little group of plants for me is like the poppies that seem to deal with whatever the winter we have. You know, they still come up the following year.
Yeah, I mean, it does always come back to that mantra, doesn't it? Right plant, right place. And the gardens here show that you don't need to have lots of space to be able to do exactly that.
That's beautiful, isn't it? So where's it going to go in your garden?
Half shade.
Achillea needs a sunny border.
Okay.
Yeah, so it needs full sun. So it doesn't really do so well in part shade.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Happy shopping.
I've been and looked, and I love buying plants, but there's no more room in that trolley.
I think I can find a little bit more. We've got the other trolley in the trolley.
I bought a house last year, so we're still trying to get the garden together. Perhaps put the hydrangeas in some pots, but I'm not sure where to go from there.
Put it in dappled shade if you can. It just protects it from that harsh sunlight because they can go crispy on the edges. The salvia, that is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. So that loves it hot and sunny. When these flowers are finished, you cut them down to the next set of leaves and you'll get new shoots coming and the flowers just keep coming and coming. And the bees love them.
This is the second year when Gardeners World Live has hosted the International Orchid Show. Now, there are 31 exhibitors, 6 from overseas, that bring together such an incredible range of these extraordinary plants. I'm told that there is no other place in the UK that you can see such a varied range of these extraordinary plants all together. So if you love the plants, you have to come here. And a few weeks ago, we went down to Dorset to visit a couple as they prepared their orchids to bring to the show.
I'm Annie.
And I'm Simon.
And together we're the Isle of Portland Orchids. I love Gardeners World Live, lots of orchid people there, and also lots of fantastic plants. I'm a bit of a plant-holic, really.
I first started growing orchids when I was a teenager and worked at a Dorset orchid nursery, weekends and school holidays. So that was back in the 1970s. We started growing orchids together in the 1990s, and we came here to find a perfect place to grow orchids, surrounded by the wild country that Portland is. Worldwide, there's about 28,000 orchid species, so they're an enormous plant family. We've currently got about 500 orchid species, and we grow them in 3 very distinct environments. This is what we call our Himalayan greenhouse. So this is a greenhouse that we keep with a minimum temperature of 7 degrees in the winter. So it's a really cool greenhouse. It's also quite bright as well. If you go to the Himalayas, the forest there is much more open woodland. So the orchids are often on trees on their own, getting lots of light. So we find when it comes to flowering, if you can give your plants plenty of light, it certainly helps. This is Miltonia cuneata. And this is a plant that we came across in the coastal mountains of Brazil. I remember picnicking under a tree that was completely covered in this orchid. So it's not when you see a lot, but when you find a tree with it on, it'll be absolutely smothered. This is Odontoglossum, now Oncidium cristatum, which is, again, one of those cool growing orchids. I think this is Colombia and Ecuador, that part of the world. The thing that's special about orchids is their diversity and the links between the species and the amazing places they come from. So we've been fortunate to travel across the tropical world.
It's given everything context. I suppose when I thought about a tropical rainforest, I always thought about this colourful place, and they're just green, they're so green, and different greens, and you have to really search for the plants a lot of the time. We're in the Club Forest greenhouse. This is where we grow lots and lots of the miniatures. A lot of these plants are from South and Central America. This is a Dendrobium cuspitsonii, and it's from Papua New Guinea. I do love it because it is a really tiny plant with these huge, great flowers. We grow a lot of masdevallias, and so we've got Masdevallia beachianas. They're hummingbird pollinated, so they're going, look at me, so the birds will come in and take the nectar.
This is our warm lowland forest, so this is where we grow all of our Phalaenopsis species, which a lot of people will know as moth orchids. All of the plants we've got here are species, and that means that they're all plants that are found somewhere in the world as wild plants. Hybrids are produced by people. We don't produce those. They don't, for us, have the same stories to tell. This is Phalaenopsis chibai, and you'll notice it's got 2 seed pods here. So we haven't got room indoors to grow hundreds of Phalaenopsis, but what we can do is grow our species collection, produce the seed, and then sell plants as seedlings. I think our relationships with orchids is different. I think my relationship is a little bit more around the botany. Annie, you're a real gardener, aren't you? And you love the propagation and the plants.
Orchids like to have their roots slightly restricted. They don't like to be overpotted. Really squashing down just around the plant. And that's what we recommend. So if you can pick up the plant, buy the plant, that's where it's nice and sturdy in the pot. This is Scaphosepalum gibbosum. I just love them because they just look like big moustaches. They're just very different, very unusual. So this will be coming to Gardeners World Live.
Anything with a flower on is likely to be in our exhibit. One of our hopes is that our Coelogene nitidus will be in flower. So these are the flower spikes coming here. So they look about perfect, so we should have lots and lots of these.
We really like to talk about our displays. You know, lots of people are so interested, and Simon talks non-stop to people.
I think together we make a really good team. The thing that gets us is every time a species opens its flowers and we see again its special little face appearing for us, that's a magic moment.
I can see the moustache orchid has made it here. That is so exciting. That is such a unique shape.
Isn't it wonderful? And everybody's really, really enjoying it. It's like they're going, wow, look at that plant.
Annie, what else on this display are you excited about?
The Masdevallia beachianas, they are just incredible. Hummingbird pollinated and so bright. You can see that just jumping out in a forest.
That looks amazing. I mean, it's like it's been coloured in with a highlighter. That's how bright it is. Simon, when people are coming here to buy orchids from you, what kind of advice are you giving them?
To match the habitat the orchid naturally grows in to the habitats inside your house. So some rooms might be cooler and shadier, and that's going to suit the cloud forest orchids that come from tropical mountains, or you might have a brighter, hotter room, and that would fit the plants that come more from the lowland forests. But you've got a habitat somewhere in your house for every tropical orchid.
Not only are there so many amazing orchids on the display, but the scent is absolutely intoxicating. Just standing here, I can smell it. I'm so glad I got to meet you both and hear about your orchids. Thank you for showing me.
Fancy joining me? Just for a moment, slow down and enjoy the garden. I think I've found the perfect small spot on the whole of this showground. Look above me, the tree providing dapple shade. I've got a boulder just to perch my backside and take a moment. I've got the water moving down, and then I've got the bog planting wrapping its way round, then the hostas and the ferns behind me. It carries real atmosphere, and it's not a big space. In fact, I think it celebrates a lot of what Gardeners World Live is about this year, which is making a meter matter. Nick's mission for his headline garden is to inspire us to transform just 1 metre square for the benefit of you, wildlife and the planet. And on that note, Arit is now with Nick and they're about to reveal his garden.
Nick, wow. It absolutely looks, feels, smells, is amazing. You must be so happy.
It's kind of a mad thing, isn't it? You know, as a designer, when you've kind of created something in your head and then suddenly it's a 3D reality, it never stops being amazing.
Let's look at the plants, because now that they're here, it's singing.
I mean, you know I absolutely love colour, and blue and orange I'm so passionate about. They make each other zing and look more radiant and more exciting.
You've really obviously taken on board for pollinators and wildlife throughout this garden as well.
Yeah, I've tried to do that, and where we've got the sort of grassy mixes, the idea is that there'll be 3, 4, 5 months of flowering in there. So as you say, brilliant for pollinators, but also brilliant for those parasitoid wasps, of course, which balance out all the pests in the rest of the garden. So it's kind of showing that even in just 1 square metre, you can create these pollinator patches, these kind of pest patches, and it's a really simple thing to do.
But of course, the water that has to be present in the garden. I mean, this looks fabulous.
I love the idea that you just bring water into a garden. It brings life immediately. And you know all the stats, you know, it's literally 2-3 weeks and you've got 20 new species suddenly in the garden. But also want to be able to show that just a 1 square metre pond, you can have a couple of different plants in there, you can have a beautiful display.
But you know, I love how you've been so playful and really gone into using plants throughout the whole garden.
You know, 100 years ago, we didn't have glass, steel, metal and plastic in gardens, and we had great gardens. So why can't we go back to that? Everything here, basically, apart from the clay paving, is made of plants. This wonderful Douglas fir, the cedar, the hessian on the walls, the bamboo on some of the ends. It's all plants, and they're all kind of looking after each other, creating this environment. We don't need to use lots of these modern materials.
I could literally sit here all day. Let's kind of go through to the back if that's okay. Oh, look at this, fabulous. But look, the metre comes alive massively, doesn't it? All of your raised beds.
Even if you're dedicating just 1 square metre to growing veg, you can grow 9 sweet corn. That's going to be at least 18 corns. That's a family for a month. 4 courgettes. Now that's probably a family for a full summer, right?
Definitely.
You can grow 4 cabbages. You can grow 9 lettuces. You can grow 4 tomatoes. So just in that small space, actually, you can get something really productive.
And this, a triumph.
Indeed, the famous brassicarium. And of course, everything wants to mess with your brassicas, right? It's the pigeons, it's the slugs, it's the aphids, it's the rabbits. But if you've got a structure overhead, and done a mini one over there, you can cover it in a mesh. Traditionally, of course, we would use plastic. Now there is a product that does exactly the same thing, but it's made of sweet corn. So it's completely biodegradable, lasts for 8 years, then you throw it on the compost heap.
Nick, it's a really beautiful garden, but true to you, everything plant-driven. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
Really, well done.
Thank you.
I'm afraid that's it for today, but you can still come to the show. It's open till Sunday, and if you possibly can, I urge you to do so. It's really good. And next week, you'll be with Francis, who's at a beautiful garden just outside Bath, and I'll be back at Longmeadow in a couple of weeks' time. So until then, from all of us here at Gardeners World Live, bye-bye.